You know, because there's no like 24/7 progressive news outlet out there. Hopefully, status quo one day is that. I usually have CNN or MSNBC on. I say better to know the enemy up close. So I had CNN on yesterday, and I just watched this segment, and I was just like completely flabbergasted. And credit to Fez Shakir, who's Bernie Sanders' campaign manager. Frankly, it's the best I've seen in 2020 so far of Bernie Sanders' campaign. I mean, I think Fez did a better job, frankly, than Bernie has been doing in some of these TV interviews. I think he was more forceful. I think he had the right answers. And I think he was basically pointing out, you're full of, I'm trying not to get demonetized, but full of spoop. Full of shit. So let's take a look at this segment, which again is just, there's so many things wrong with it. But here is Bernie Sanders' campaign manager, Fez Shakir, with CNN news anchor Jim Sciutto. Here we go.
No, go ahead.
We want to talk a little bit about socialism, too, and we both have a few questions for you on socialism, because we heard, it was on this program yesterday, that House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said this is the new Democratic Socialist majority, which maybe you guys embraced, right, because of the position of Senator Sanders as a socialist. Is that helpful, though, to the Democratic Party overall, do you guys think?
Well, so let me just say about Donald Trump, who's attacking in a very racist way four members
of tight on time and asking
right.
you about
I just
labeling.
want to say, like, what he's doing is attacking them because their policies, which is free tuition at public colleges and universities, canceling student debt, Medicare for all. Instead of having that debate about policies, he wants to take it into a racist place. What I'm saying is those policies are quite popular, and instead of having that debate on policies, he's trying to elide that debate. We think that this is the popular approach to go. Americans support this across the board.
But the numbers don't support it, actually. I mean, there's an ABC News Washington Post poll that found that Trump would beat a candidate perceived as a socialist by 49% to 43%, whereas other candidates not perceived as socialists would beat him. So I'm just curious, are you convinced you have the public behind you?
Jim, there's a guy with the name Bernie Sanders, and I hope you will take a look at Bernie Sanders against Donald Trump and look at those head-to-head numbers and then report back to me what you find, Jim, because I think you will find in the 25 of the last 25 polls, Bernie Sanders is beating Donald Trump head-to-head in every poll out there. Can you challenge me on that?
Though, well, I could challenge you on the position, because we're talking about positions that are his signature issues, which don't have the backing of the majority of Democratic voters. And of course, those issues are going to be discussed, at length in the coming months.
And what do you think, Jim, that most people know about Bernie Sanders? What do you think they know about him? He ran for president before, and head-to-head, in places like Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, he's crushing Donald Trump. How do you explain that to me, Jim?
Well, listen, we'll let the voters decide. I'm just saying on the issues that you're making your signature issues, the polls show they don't back those particular issues. And as voters learn about those issues, that might be factored into their decision. We're going to keep up the conversation because we got a lot of time till November 2020.
Okay. Come back, Faz. Come back soon, okay? We really appreciate it. Thanks so much. Be sure.
So, first of all, the male anchor in particular, Jim Sciutto, was basically using pharmaceutical industry talking points masqueraded as journalism in that whole thing. And I don't even know really where to start. When he says that, he uses one poll to signify Trump would be generic socialist. That doesn't mean anything. A generic socialist is not on the ballot, right? Bernie Sanders is on the ballot. And if you actually want to look up socialist, Bernie Sanders isn't even proposing real socialism. He's not talking about getting rid of the entire capitalist system. So Jim Sciutto, because they're trying to push a narrative, he's pushing one poll in particular. Well, I could show you other polls. There's a poll from Gallup from last year. You see, on the left is capitalism, on the right is socialism. Well, socialism's popularity keeps going up, and capitalism's popularity keeps going down, to the point last year, this is Gallup, which is a serious polling outlet, and nobody calls Gallup fake news unless you're a Trump supporter. Socialism's 10 points higher. So why is it that people on CNN like Jim Sciutto are taking one poll that shows Trump beating a generic socialist, which again doesn't really mean anything, and he doesn't show other polls showing socialism is very popular? I know the answer, but we have to push it and say, why is that? CNN. And by the way, I'm putting status quo at risk because right now we're being considered for getting media credentials for the second debate, which CNN is hosting. But I'm not going to just like not do segments and call out CNN when they're just brazenly lying. And if we don't get credentialed, if they deny us, that shows you all you need to know. If you can't critically call out CNN for lies, so be it. We're not gonna like be silent so we could get credentials. So another thing that was totally absurd during this interview, he says, well, how do you answer that the majority of Bernie's policies, don't have support among the Democratic Party? That's just not true. Also known as a lie. What is he talking about? There was a poll last year, Medicare for All, 70% approval overall, 80% among Democratic Party voters, 50% among Republican voters, 80% among Democratic Party voters. Another poll recently showed between people who strongly favor Medicare for All and somewhat favor Medicare for All, 79% of Democrats. Strongly or somewhat. Combine it, that's 79%. Free public college. Poll after poll shows majority support. Fight for $15 minimum wage. Poll after poll shows majority support. By the way, the Democratic Party in Congress today, the House, voted for a $15 minimum wage. Not so brave when you know it's not going to pass, but progress, I guess. They should have done it when they had both houses of Congress. I wonder why. They do it when there's no chance of it passing because it will get denied in the Senate and, of course, vetoed by the president. Green New Deal, polling majority support. I mean, I could go down the list. Wealth tax, majority support. By the way, a wealth tax is not Elizabeth Warren's idea. A lot of this I have a plan stuff is kind of borrowed plans from Bernie Sanders with a couple more sentences. I'm not saying she doesn't have good plans, but this whole notion that, Elizabeth Warren has reinvented the wheel is not exactly true. So he's just lying. He's lying. There's no other way to say this. His policies don't have majority support. Based on a poll that said Trump and a generic socialist? I mean, when you cherry pick certain polls and leave out other polls, that's lying by omission. So a real journalist would have said, this poll shows Trump beating a generic socialist, but socialism in general is more favorable. Here's another poll. Or, why is Bernie Sanders' campaign manager the one that has to point out 25 out of the last 25 polls, Bernie Sanders is defeating Donald Trump head-to-head and not even close? You don't think CNN knows that? You don't think their producers could get those polls? You don't think CNN producers and this anchor could get that Bernie Sanders is winning in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Ohio? Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania right now over Donald Trump? So you're saying the majority of Democrats don't support your policies, then why is he beating Trump in all of these polls? Makes no sense. And Fez, to his credit, forcefully said, basically without saying, you're fucking full of shit, he said, you're fucking full of shit. So I'm very proud to say Mr. Shudo hit back at me because after I tweeted out the segment, which went crazy viral, it got over 1,000 retweets, so thank you on the Twitter. I called him out, and he said, "Not true, my friend." I don't know, did he send me a friend request on Facebook? I don't think we're friends. I mean, I'm not wishing ill will on you, but you ain't my BFF, pal. Let's chill out. Not true, my friend. Here's the poll I cited showing a candidate seen as a socialist, as Sanders self-identified, losing to Trump. Moreover, I noted that surveys consistently show folks like their employer-sponsored plans. As I tweeted back at him, the same poll you cited Trump beating a generic socialist, in that same poll, Bernie beats him by 6. I wonder why you didn't mention. So why is it if you're citing one poll, you cite generic Trump beats a generic socialist to imply Bernie Sanders has no chance, but in the same exact poll, Bernie Sanders is beating him by 6. Leaving that out is lying. I also said, Other polls show socialism is more popular than capitalism. Why no mention? And as I just told you, Medicare for All has majority support. He says, I presented contradictory information. That's not a lie. My job is not to present solely the information that supports a guest's views. It's to challenge them. Save the lie charge for the many actual lies out there. Oh my God. First of all, you presented contradictory information. You're right. Because like I just said, you're citing Trump beating a generic socialist, but in that same poll that you cite that, Bernie is beating Trump. Do you see how those two are contradictory? So you're right, but for the wrong reasons. Secondly, what a ridiculous rationalization. My job is not to present solely the information that supports a guest's views. Your job is to present the facts. Your job is to present the facts. So it is, facts also include context. So when you just put up a poll to try and frame, because this is called framing. I worked in corporate media at Fox and MSNBC. I have seen it, and I've been in the meetings that talk about this. How do we frame this? So they are framing that Bernie Sanders, because socialism is unpopular in America. It's not, because I just showed you another poll that shows it's on the rise from Gallup. He didn't include this poll. He included one from the Washington Post. And by the way, you have to actually look inside the polls. How do they ask the questions? Because that's actually important. How questions are worded sometimes elicit specific responses. So when he said most employees enjoy their private health insurance, what does that have to do with the price of tea in China? When he shows a poll that show more people support Obamacare than don't support it, what does that have to do with anything? People can support Obamacare, but also support going further. That's what that means. If you have, I think it was 48% support Obamacare, well, a recent poll shows 55% support Medicare for all. So maybe two things are true. People support Obamacare, but if there's a better option, Medicare for all, they also support that. Well, he's making it seem like the two are, very distant things from each other. And he's lying and manufacturing consent to his audience by saying the information that's, my job is not to present solely the information that supports the guest's views. This isn't a guest's views. This is polling data. This isn't Fez's views that Bernie Sanders would beat Donald Trump. This isn't, people on social media's views. These are polls. 25 of them dating back to 2016. There's not one poll that has showed Trump defeating Bernie Sanders nationwide. In some states, yes, Texas, other states, but not nationwide. So when you say it's not to just show the candidate's views, it's not a view, it's the facts, it's the polling data, you idiot. Oh. So when he says save the lie charge for the many actual lies out there, no, sir, you did lie, because at the end of that interview, you said his policies don't have majority support in the Democratic Party. They do. And I put, if you want to look at the Twitter thread, I put a link to each policy that Bernie is proposing and majority support for those policies. I said, how is it contradictory information when the very poll you cited contradicts your claim that Americans would vote for Trump over a socialist? Bernie beats him by 6 in the same poll. Your job is to present all the information, not bits and pieces. You also inaccurately stated Sanders' policies don't have support among the majority of Americans. As I've shown you, that's simply factually wrong. And if you're an actual journalist, you should correct it on air. I also said that is a lie. Maybe you didn't intend it, but it was inaccurate. Go down the list of issues he has championed. They have majority support. And when you cherry pick one poll, when other polls show socialism's popularity is rising, that's leaving out important context for your audience. So when you say you're challenging him, that's fine. Although strange that your colleagues aren't challenging Kamala Harris's absurd statements, she will do Medicare for all with no tax increases. But when you intentionally leave out information for your audience, that is Sanders beating Trump in poll after poll, beating him in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and then inaccurately stating that his policies don't have majority support, Democratic support, sorry, dude, that ain't journalism. You should correct it on air, unless you have different data that shows free public college, Green New Deal, $15 minimum wage, and Medicare for all don't have majority support. Boom, drop the mic. And whatever. I don't really care that it's great. CNN anchor got back to me, like, wonderful. Means they're paying attention. But it's not about me versus a CNN anchor. This kind of misinformation happens all day long, 7 days a week. On CNN, on MSNBC, in the New York Times, in the Washington Post. They're oozing with bias. My bias is out here. I support Bernie Sanders personally. As I've always said, it does not affect the facts I report. If I find out tomorrow Bernie Sanders is money laundering, I will be the first to report it. If I find out tomorrow he is taking dirty money when he says he's not, I will report it. But I can't invent facts. I don't have any information to support any of those things. So what I believe personally, I'm a progressive, informs the type of stories I cover, the types of stories I want to go out and cover in the field. But factually, my reporting and my commentary is based on facts. Whereas these folks pretend to be neutral, but any idiot could watch this and see they are oozing with disdain for not only Bernie Sanders, but what he represents. And that is because they are fake newsmen. They are working for a multi-billion-dollar corporate parent called AT&T. And AT&T and Comcast, which owns NBC and MSNBC, and Amazon, which owns Washington Post, and very, very rich people who own the New York Times, do not want socialism.
Hope you enjoyed that last video. Hop on over to statuscoup.com where you can sign up for our email list and become a member for as low as $5 to $10 a month. Membership is how we grow. That's statuscoup.com/join. And remember, join our email list so we can grow the revolution with you.